Welcome back to NGF News, everybody. We know this has been a long week since you guys got to getting content on Monday, but we were in London having a great time, and we've got some content coming out for you from that. But today we have some easy breezy kind of things to go over. The global banking issues, and then Putin's warrant arrest.
Yeah, not so much easy peasy, but very very complicated issues that I mean the global banking issue, that one's the most kind of like personal fearful one.
Yeah,
While Putin's arrest warrant is kind of just like, in my opinion, like a tap on the hand, like
it's whatever.
bad boy. All right. Going straight into the global banking issues, I'm sure all you viewers have seen headlines about SVB collapsing, which is Silicon Valley Bank. The reason why Silicon Valley Bank collapsed is because they had a bunch of cash into U.S. government bonds. Now, like bonds are a safe investment, right? However, because interest rates rose, the value of these bonds started to drop. So that's kind of just like the gist of what happened to SVB. But if you look more deeply into what was going on at SVB, their first vulnerability came when most of their deposits, so people putting in money, which was 93.9% of the people putting in their money, um, that money was uninsured, meaning they had passed the $250,000 FDIC limit. Yeah. Then what they would do is they would take this money and put it into 10-year US government bonds. At the time, this was like 2021,
Yeah,
tech
COVID
techs
times.
was tech stocks were booming. It was a fantastic year in 2021. But as this tech boom was coming to an end, inflation was increasing, and this meant, um, sorry, the tech boom came to an end, inflation was rising, and then this meant danger for SVB's strategy and how they were investing people's money.
Yep.
Um, SVB did not have cash on hand to provide depositors if they came to pull out money. And tech companies were the first to see this, and because they had accounts over 250,000, so they rushed the bank to get their deposits out because of these two vulnerabilities.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's really interesting because in 2020 it was or 2021 they basically had of their 209 billion in assets, it was 100 billion in their investments and then 100 billion in cash. So like you said, they put it into the bonds and then bonds obviously went down and they were like, let's put them in higher yield bonds. We can make more money. Pulled out all their cash, realized that they had a net loss, and then
Was it like a
it
couple
was it
billion,
was
right?
like it was a couple. It was like 20 billion,
Yeah.
like net loss. It was high, 20 to
Yeah.
20 to 40. And so then everyone saw this. They pulled out their money, and then they're like, "Where did everybody go? Like, we were just getting started. We were just getting started." And then the bank failed. So there's a lot. There's been 5 banks that have failed so far. I think I wrote them all down. Signature Bank failed.
Yep.
First Republic Bank failed. Credit Suisse was about, or how you say it?
Credit
Suisse?
Suisse, yeah.
Suisse? They were about to fail, but then UBS took over with about $2 billion and then took over, I think, 40 of their branches. And so far, there's been 200 or $400 billion that have been poured into rescuing banks. And in the United States, 150 billion has to be guaranteed give to customers as
Right.
deposits.
Just going back to the Credit Suisse thing, Credit Suisse has always been like the problem child in the
Yes.
global banking crisis. They've been involved in like so many scandals and problems. So I guess the contagion, this quote unquote contagion, I'll go back to the term contagion,
Yeah.
kind of spread to Credit Suisse, and people were like, all right, SVB collapsed because they were greedy. Credit Suisse is like very greedy as well.
Yeah.
Not greedy, but they've been involved in like scandals and stuff, and we'll get into more of the Credit Suisse scandals in the topic of the week. But yeah, and then people were just like, okay, well, everyone else is pulling out their money, so let's pull our money out of Credit Suisse as well. But luckily enough, they had UBS and the Saudi National Bank as well.
Yeah.
They were lucky enough to have them on standby with cash ready to go to save them. So Credit Suisse has been saved, but Signature Bank also had the similar problem where they had small businesses that had a bunch of unsecured deposits, meaning, over 250,000. And these people that had these small businesses were like, okay, well, SVB just collapsed. So we're gonna do the same, and
Yeah.
rest of the banks.
There's a big scare, and the biggest thing right now is that people don't really understand what is going on. So they're fearful that the bank's going to collapse, but the reality is that if they left their money in there, most of these banks, especially SVB, because they had a lot of money,
Hmm.
would have probably been okay,
Right.
even though they pulled the bonds out. But
And
the
then took
biggest
them out.
problem came when all of the big companies started to pull their money out.
Yeah.
And so, and then all of the little banks,
I
little smaller banks
guess
did that.
I guess that's kind of fair because it's like, what the hell are you doing with my money? You have no idea what you're doing, is the type of thing that these tech companies thought. And
Yeah,
that's fair, right? But when you have all of these companies rushing out like that, it's just like, what are you doing? Like
yeah.
we have seen what this does
Yeah,
in two
before.
two instances, the Great Depression and '08.
Yeah,
And it's just like we have to be, yes, I understand there's a lot of pissed people with their money, but we also have to just take it slowly and yeah.
people aren't patient because, I mean, yeah, your bank's failing now. And if you're on the brink of retirement and you got 250,000 or less than 250,000
Oh,
that's
you're fine.
insured, you're fine, or just take it out. I get it. You're on the brink of retirement. These massive companies in Silicon Valley pulling out billions of dollars for what? Which doesn't make sense. Like, I know that they see what the bank's doing. What the bank did was wrong. They should not have sold to have a net loss to
Absolutely.
buy more bonds that are going to have a net loss. It's just stupid. So I get why they were fearful, but the fact is that you made it worse. These big tech companies who can take the hit screwed over everybody else, and so I think it was just stupid and selfish for them to pull their money out.
I think there was just selfishness on all ends. SVB companies, this was all just a clusterfuck, in my opinion. Um, but going back to the term contagion, I think the biggest worry right now is whether people believe that this may or may not spread. But I mean, just looking at like bank ETFs, and if you just look at the market right now, it's kind of rallying from the point it was before. Does this mean that the contagion is kind of like ended? In my opinion, I believe that SVB, Signature Bank, these were all kind of like, how do isolated incidents? Not really an incident that could spread. It's more like people have gained awareness of what banks were doing, not so much related to like the global inflation crisis right
Yeah,
now. I think these were just isolated incidents where these banks, yes, it's related to the inflation crisis because of interest rates rising and the bonds that these banks were buying and how much unsecured deposits were in these banks. But this also serves as like a wake up call for other banks and consumers, right, to understand and learn more about their banks and what they do with their money. So this doesn't happen for next time.
yeah,
And you're seeing all these small companies now flock to big banks like JP Morgan,
yep,
Bank of America, Citigroup. So, I mean, I think Credit Suisse was kind of just like the last, and I don't think this would spread out to any more banks, in
yeah.
my opinion.
No, I agree, and I think it's again like 2008, just poor money management. They were just handing out loans left and right in 2008,
Yep.
and same in the Great Depression, just handing out credit loans for whatever they could get their hands on. So it's just bad money management. The difference is this time the federal government was on it
Yep.
quickly. And, whatever you think about Joe Biden and his administration, you got to put that aside and say they did a good job here.
Treasury was quick.
Yeah, they had to act quickly because they had to first off secure deposits for all the people who pulled out who aren't going to be insured for the 250,000, and then also make sure that the companies didn't fail, and then make sure that more banks don't fail by pouring in lots of money. And okay, yes, are you going to say is inflation going to go up again? I don't know. It's not a incredible. It's not trillions of dollars. It is high in the billions. 150 billion is high. I don't know if that's necessarily going to cause inflationary to go up again,
Mm-mm.
but um, interestingly enough, J.P. Morgan, the CEO, I forget his name, but He
Jamie
said,
Damon.
yeah, Jamie Dimon. He said, I think it was last week, that he thinks that the banks collapsing is the end of the bear market and the beginning of a potential bull market.
Really?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know.
I think what he's trying to point out is that we have finally found the cracks in how money is managed. And now that we have these banks that are going to move from greed to more safer investments, this might spark a new path of starting conservative and working our way back up to more aggressive portfolios that
Yeah,
banks have. Personally, I have an aggressive portfolio right now. I don't put the brakes on it, just whatever. But the thing is that these banks did get greedy, and I think that the period of greedy banks is going to be over. At least
yeah,
I hope so, and that these issues serve as lessons for next banks.
yeah. Um, it's definitely good points because we need these banks to start to kind of really manage their money well, which post 2008 we thought they were doing, and then we see things like this, and then we're like, okay, what the heck's going on? But I'm gonna just say I don't know necessarily if we're gonna go. I think we're definitely at the towards the end of the bear. For two reasons. One, we have such strong labor data. Two, we're finally fixing, like starting to get past the global supply chain issues, which thank goodness. So, and then once the war starts to dwindle down, investments start to go back into energy. We start to have, better relations. China might start to, become friendlier with
Yeah.
people and bring up trade. So,
I mean, all you're saying would go perfectly into our topic of the week. So
yeah,
just a little snippet of what we're going to talk about
for sure.
in the
Yeah,
topic of the week. But yeah, those are all fantastic points, and I agree too that people should not be worried about what's going on with the banking system right now. I think the consumers did a fantastic job in highlighting what greedy banks are doing, and that it serves a lesson to the banks right now that listen during these times of high inflation and poor, like a rough economy around the world, we can't be playing games. So yeah, that's all I gotta say for this one.
yeah,
Do you have any final remarks, or should we just move on
yeah.
to
Let's go on to
Bruins
the
arrest warrant?
Putin's arrest.
All right. So as of March 17, 2023, the International Criminal Court, I'm gonna say the ICC for the rest of this clip, released two arrest warrants for Vladimir Putin and Maria Alexeyevna Belova. Maria is the Children's Rights Commissioner for the President of Russia. I need that in Cyrillic to read that. I can't read Russian in like the American English way.
Yeah, it's interesting.
But ICC states Putin is responsible for the unlawful deportation of children and the unlawful transfer of children from Ukraine to Russia. And the ICC states that they have plenty of reasonable ground to prove that Putin is responsible for these crimes. Maria has the same warrant for the similar crimes as Putin.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting you say that because the ICC says that they have all legal grounds to do it, and then the Kremlin goes and says, "No, you don't." Um, for two reasons, which fortunately, sense Russia is not signatory to the treaty,
That is true.
so to the ICC. They also don't have enough evidence to incriminate Putin, and there's never been a world leader
Really?
of his
So is
size.
the ICC saying this, or was this?
No, this is the Kremlin.
Oh, this is the Kremlin.
This is the
Okay,
Kremlin.
I was about
And
to say.
so the ice they're saying that like there's never been a world leader who's been put on this pedestal before, and especially who's, a leader of a big country like Russia. So this is interesting because I mean obviously I believe the Kremlin is completely wrong. There's ICC has so much evidence.
So we're
It's just war crimes in general. The war in general is a crime, and he should
yep.
go to jail for it. But Putin now has to tread some water because there's 123 signatories to the treaty. He leaves Russia
Into one of those
get
signatory
into one of those
countries.
signatory countries outside of Belarus, potentially Georgia.
I think
He's
Georgia's in there. I'm not sure.
yeah,
I know there's a hundred.
Belarus is. He could get arrested, legally speaking.
Mm-hmm.
Like they could go as soon as he lands, they can have a convoy. they can arrest him. John Bolton, former U.S. National Security Advisor, said that we should not cooperate with the ICC, calling the criminal court fundamentally illegitimate, that the United States should not cooperate.
Really? Where was he getting at with this?
I don't know. He just says this is not in any way an excuse for Putin's conduct of the war, but there are jurisdictions that can try him, Ukraine in particular, and ultimately free Russia to try him. So if Putin gets overthrown, or if Ukraine win the world,
Ah,
win the
I see.
war, they can try him.
So what he wants is he wants it he wants Putin to be overthrown or tried by Ukraine, not
Yes,
by the ICC.
and he makes a good point because legally, the ICC and the ICJ, which are both UN organizations, do not have legal authority to arrest people or put them in jail.
Technically, yes.
So
They have to rely on one of the
the
member
countries,
countries
yes, to put
to
them
then transport them
to jail. So
to The Hague.
there's entire arrest warrant. Just it doesn't make sense to me because they can't really do anything about it. And what in reality, what is any country going to do if he does step on their grounds?
I mean, they can arrest him.
They can, but
That's going to be a
you're
lot of,
just aggravating the war. I mean, come on, you arrest a leader, the Kremlin doesn't think it's legitimate. They're going to be like, that's an act of war.
yep.
We're going to attack you, and then World War III starts.
It is a dangerous move, and now that you put it that way, I can see it. And we also have to look at whether or not if Putin's arrest in a different country would spark a sort of rebellion inside of Russia too. There's also that possibility
True.
as well. So, will this arrest warrant, is it pointless? I would say no, because now you have him wanted in 123 countries, which could put an end to this war. But, like you said, the ICC can't directly arrest suspects, and they have to allow another member country to exercise that power. So,
Yeah.
I mean,
Well, and here's the funny thing too: Russia is about to be the president of the Security Council. So anything that they say is just
weren't they already president of the Security Council?
it's 2023 now.
Oh yeah, that's
Yeah,
right, because they got a revolve every
yeah,
month.
they got to revolve every month. So they're about to be this month's president.
Oh,
So that's going to complicate things even more. Um, Basically just calling everybody out, and then China, who is incredibly friendly for some reason. Um, there are reasons, but being incredibly friendly can cause a lot of things in the UN Security Council that could just boil over into the war.
I mean, I can go on and on about the problems with the United Nations Security Council, but whatever those two put out, it's going to be vetoed by another P5 member or
Yeah,
yeah. So I'm not too worried about what goes on in the Security Council. Yes, there'll be a lot of name calling and finger pointing, but I am particularly interested in how friendly China is becoming even more. I mean, this is pretty obvious, like that Russia and China are good friends, but even after the warrant was served, it's like China is risking their public image here, right? With Russia, so and they're
and
taking a big risk with it.
and there's tensions in China internally, and um, like we saw in class the other day, Xi Jinping and his foreign advisor, foreign minister, basically just called out the United States, saying like the reason why you're poor is because the United States is encircling us, which I mean is just clearly not true.
Yeah,
And the Chinese people are starting to realize that Xi's got a lot of hold on us, and that we don't really want that hold from the Communist Party. We want a little bit more freedom. So he's been backing off on especially COVID zero policies. But I have an interesting question.
hmm. Let's hear it.
The United States, if they want to win this war, I believe that it's going to be from the inside of Russia. Could the CIA try to spark a rebellion?
Okay. Let's be for real. We don't even know what the CIA does in and out every single day,
No.
right?
Yeah.
They could maybe they're already planning it right now. Maybe they they're on the ground in Ukraine, right? I mean, we had the Reaper drone that was flying over the Black Sea. No one
Yeah.
knew about. So, should the CIA be directly involved with the rebellion? I mean, yes, because Putin, for as long as Putin stays in power, he's going to push Ukraine. He's going to want his four territories in Ukraine. He's going to keep. Bakhmut is a flashpoint. Whoever wins Bakhmut will have essentially have the advantage in the war.
Yeah.
If we can create a sort of distraction, right? We don't have to create a full-on rebellion. Maybe just a distraction, just enough so that Ukraine can secure Bakhmut. I think, yeah. But
Yeah.
you also have you have opposition's leaders already in there. You have Navalny in jail. That's tweeting that. He tweeted something about the warrant. He said he was very
Yeah.
happy with the warrant.
So that was
So
interesting.
it, we need to have these opposition leaders more vocal, and we need to find a way from the outside, right, to have these opposition leaders more vocal.
Yeah, for sure.
I, it's if Russia finds out that the CIA is directly involved, then it's war three right
Yeah, for
there.
sure.
But I think we should have to help the opposition people
Yeah,
more.
get more power, get more voice.
Yep.
And yeah, the only reason I say that is because post World War II, you see the CIA getting involved to try, cause rebellions in North Korea, North Vietnam, um, Soviet Union, Belarus, Georgia. Then you go on and you see them try to form a government in Iraq, Afghanistan, all failed. Complete, like, not just like failed as like it didn't happen, like it was completely utter 180. Like they could not, everything that they wanted to happen, the direct opposite happened.
Right.
This time though is a little different. There is much more opposition in Russia than there was in the Soviet Union
Yep.
era. There is a potential to, like you said, get the leaders involved who are opposition to Putin to create tension. And there is tension right now in the country. There are protests every week. There are military and police having to stop these protests every week. They're just not getting anywhere right now, but it's happening. So if you can get more people on that side and get more people to where the police, the protest, like they just can't contain it, it's gonna have a big, big problem on its hands.
It's
So
just like what happened in China where everybody rallied
yep,
because of
yep,
those COVID policies.
yep.
Everyone
Two
rallied.
million. You can't contain 2 million
You
people
can't.
because you're first off your army is only 2 million and they're spread out everywhere. Same with Russia, they're everywhere. You're not, and they don't have 2 million people in the army. If they get 2 million people to go out, especially in Moscow, big Moscow crowd, it could change how Putin views the war. Not change that he's going to pull out, but maybe kind of pull back. And that can allow for an offensive from Ukraine to kind
Right.
of push him back.
And the only thing that's stopping people is the fear.
Yeah,
It's just people want to. There's a bunch of people that want to speak out, but are afraid of them getting arrested, family getting arrested. But if you have a one united just push, just like we saw in China, that'd be perfect.
they need to organize. They need to be organized. That's the biggest problem. They're not
Yeah, but
organized.
even the Russian government's just cracking down on organization. They're good with it. They're good with cracking down on organization, but there just needs to be just that big enough distraction for Ukraine to make some ground. Because right now it's just a stalemate
Yeah,
in
and
in Ukraine.
for sure. So yeah, I mean, that's all I got. Yeah,
Yeah, I mean that's all I got to.
yeah. I hope you guys enjoyed that. A little shorter of an episode today, but we definitely wanted to cover these two because, first off, the global banking crisis is going to affect everybody, and the Putin's arrest is going to affect how the war is going to change, which inevitably affects everybody. So, keep doing your own research, update yourself. That's what
Absolutely.
definitely what we advocate for. We know we miss some things. We do the best we can to cover. So, keep doing your own research, and thank you guys for listening.